Welcome to my React channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out my main for streams and more content. Thanks. Remember Nicktoons Unite? Do you guys remember Nicktoons Unite?
Remember Nicktoons Unite? Crossovers today seem like the norm. A cinematic universe this, collaboration that, but in the early to mid 2000s, we got to see it in video game form thanks to the Nicktoons Unite franchise, bringing in a bunch of Nicktoons in the same game to work together. Right off the bat, this was awesome. Nick was no stranger to having various studios make licensed games with their properties, but whether it was in the actual cartoons in the 2000s crossing over with stuff like the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour trilogy, they had an idea to do the same when it came to the video game side of things, only with more characters, specifically their main big four characters at the time: SpongeBob SquarePants, Danny Phantom,
they have to be
teleporting.
They have to.
You see these four on the cover, and holy heck, you're already invested in this.
You know, today, like in old games when NPCs would just teleport so they didn't have to simulate them walking.
Talk about how ambitious the whole idea was, as well as my overall personal nostalgia for them.
It's like
if
an
you
RTS.
Enjoy the video, you better subscribe. Let's enter the world of the Nicktoons.
Job's done. Still here? Fine.
In this era of licensed games flooding the market, Nickelodeon was on top of their game, having the biggest properties
these were
games for the latest
were
consoles and for handhelds. Our four main characters in this game were all seeing success in their own standalone games that were coming out, some better than others, by a lot.
I only ever remember
major presence in the gaming space at the time. So in coming up with this crazy idea to smack them all together for one big old gaming adventure, it was really a no-brainer. While a lot of the games that were coming out were heavily following or loosely following specific plots from the shows, whether it was random episodes from those shows or from TV specials, Nicktoons Unite would see its own epic story. Although I would have loved to see a cartoon special dealing with all of this as well. That would have been really cool, but regardless, the game satisfied that itch. When the game was first announced under the working title of just Nicktoons, it teased this massive crossover event, bringing in these iconic main characters and the iconic bad guys and villains to face off against. So let's start our journey at the beginning of these main four games with, well, the first one, Unite. Released on October 26, 2005 for the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and a slightly different version of the game for the Game Boy, as well as the Nintendo DS version of the game, which would be on the horizon to release in January of 2006, Nicktoons Unite would hit store shelves. THQ would be publishing the game as they did for the majority of Nickelodeon games thanks to a massive deal they made and developed by Blue Tongue Entertainment. Climax Action would take care of the handheld versions, but today we are just focusing on the console releases. In the first game, the story that brings everyone together starts with SpongeBob, as Plankton has constructed these giant machines that are causing terror throughout Bikini Bottom. While trying to hide from it all, SpongeBob is greeted by a portal opening up and Goddard flying out of it, bringing a message from Jimmy Neutron, who explains the basic plot of the bad guys from different worlds teaming up. SpongeBob follows Goddard.
You know what's messed up about this? Hold on. The thing that is most messed up about this, to me, as a kid, the thing that broke my heart as a kid
from Jimmy Neutron
was that Jimmy Neutron does not look as high quality as he does in the show. I know, huge ask, but I didn't know the difference. I didn't know the difference. I didn't know that that it was supposed to be this like whole thing, right?
Who explains the basic plot of the bad guys.
I was so upset that he looked so different.
SpongeBob follows Goddard
he's
through the
3D
portal
rendered
where
in the
Jimmy,
show,
along with Danny Phantom and Timmy Turner, greet him as they fully break down what is going on. Jimmy has created a universe portal machine, allowing him to, well, go to other universes. One of his greatest foes from the series is none other than Professor Calamitous, who replicates the device and begins visiting the respective universes of the main characters to unite with the various big baddies. Calamitous ends up amassing a villain squad consisting of Vlad Masters, but technically Vlad Plasmius from Danny's universe, Crocker from Timmy's universe, and of course Plankton from SpongeBob's. Their new evil crime syndicate has come together to steal energy from each of their worlds. We don't know why yet, but we do know that we have to do something about it. The game then spends some time kind of explaining how SpongeBob can be on the water, why Timmy can't use his fairies magic,
I was just happy to
stuff
see the
like that to make the game work and somewhat make a bit more sense here. They all must now team up together, combine their individual knowledge and skills and visit each other's worlds, foil the villain's plans, and find out where Calamitous has his secret base.
4 notorious villains will face off against a heroic foursome.
That's a heroic foursome?
Nicktoons unite! Saving the Nicktoons universe one world at a time.
The game tasks you with visiting each character's specific world to fight your way through somewhat familiar areas, fighting a bunch of enemies, solving puzzles, and taking down one of the main evil bad guys as a boss to get past the area of the story. I gotta be honest, I hold a lot of nostalgia for this game series.
I'm actually gonna shit my pants.
More specifically, the first game, as I was so excited that Unite was actually going to be a real thing. I love the concept of having the various Nicktoons all interact with each other in a meaningful way. It isn't a TV special, but at least it's in a format that should be a fun ride overall. The year is 2005, and at this point Nickelodeon was at its post-90s peak, having so many interesting and cool characters, regardless of how the network treated a lot of those shows or not. While at first we don't get a lot of Nicktoons to play as, that does change in later games. At first we get to spend a lot of time with the main 4 characters.
Even as a kid, I knew that Nickelodeon was doing
and of
weird
course
shit.
The #1 Nickelodeon golden ticket, SpongeBob. For one, the game loves and really knows the Nicktoons involved. The amount of references and nods to characters and extended universe characters to each of their respective worlds is really nice to see. It makes me feel like we are all visiting these well-established areas.
They had a few good endings. They had a few good shows that
focus on
well
all the main
and
characters here, giving you natural reasons to switch between them, whether it be for the challenges and puzzles or for just changing up the combat. The gameplay loop here is essentially boiled down to a beat 'em up within a fully realized 3D space, something similar to the Ultimate Alliance games from Marvel as the best example. Between the lot of them, what they can do isn't as vast and different compared to all the superheroes within the Ultimate Alliance games, but for them we have SpongeBob, who is your rapid melee character with him using his signature karate gloves to take out enemies. We have Jimmy, who is able to be more up close to his enemies with his weapons dealing effective damage the closer you are to the enemies. We have Danny, who is also a melee specialist, but you'd think there'd be a little more to his moveset than what you get. And then we have Timmy, who also has a weapon to fire, but all this clocks in as the ranged weapon-based gameplay, allowing you to hit targets from further away and at a more constant rate of fire. Throughout the game, however, you will unlock new abilities that will aid in making it through the game, which will start making the characters feel a lot more different from each other, and in some ways changes the gameplay's staleness a bit. These would all be in perfect sync with their characters all having traits, gadgets, and powers relating right back to the worlds that genuinely make sense for them to have. And of course, you get the ability to upgrade the abilities. While this seems like a dream scenario to have all of these characters together, the game overall is pretty short. It isn't anything that overstays its welcome, but it leaves you wanting more from it. Something better from it. Something with a bit more polish, because at the end of the day, the game is not without its faults. The AI teammates can be pretty useless, and the countless fighting of fodder are pretty repetitive after a while. Well, thankfully, this would turn into a franchise, so there is plenty more of crossover ideas to come, and as the games would go on, a bit more polish would be applied to each release. But as far as how the game would be received was pretty harsh in some areas, with the majority of the reviews landing in the midpoint of a 5 to 6 out of 10, if you're going by the number rating scale. Because honestly, it really isn't a bad game, it's just that it's lacking some things that hold it back from being really good, or even a great game. It has the makings of what makes Nicktoons in general special, and has crafted some lovingly thoughtful references and moments to the shows it involves. But between the 4 worlds that you visit, none of them stand out too much from each other aside from the basic visual differences. The enemies just seem like repetitive time wasters as you get to the end of the level to face the world's boss, and the puzzles don't seem like that much of a challenge, but once again, something to just fill time and pad the game. Without other players using the other characters with you, it does lose a bit of what would make this game a lot more fun. A regular old night having friends over or going to their house and then all plugging up to the same console and just messing around in the games, barely making it through stages because you're too busy trying to annoy Steve, because his mom bought the big boxes of Cheez-Its and he never wanted to share them so he can have them all to himself. But this all wouldn't be it for the Nicktoons games. In fact, like I said, it was only the beginning, where the next set of games would introduce new characters, change up the locations, and add a lot of overall new things to the games that would make the series feel like it was expanding with each iteration as they would come out yearly after Unite.
Become any one of your favorite Nicktoons heroes. Nicktoons Battle for Volcano Island.
Yeah, I played this one.
Nicktoons Unite would continue on to receive 3 full-fledged sequels for consoles and handhelds. The first sequel was Battle for Volcano Island, but now on the cover, Jimmy seems to be missing. While he does make appearances in the game, aside from the 3 returning from the last game, you also get access to play as some new characters from the same shows. Sam from Danny Phantom joins the cast, as well as
Danny
both
Phantom
Patrick
was
and
I don't
Sandy
remember
join
it being
from
that popular.
which is pretty interesting to note that this is quickly becoming a SpongeBob game that features some other characters. Keep that in mind for a minute. The story would also feature Jimmy, like I mentioned, as well as Squidward and Tucker, as the story revolved around a ritual needing 9 heroes to come save this island, but thanks to an interruption from the bad guy of the game, it sends all of our heroes around the area where you all need to regroup once more. But after this, the next game would come, Attack of the Toy Bots. It would ramp up some things for the series in terms of playable characters that had some exclusive to the console version and some only on the handheld
Attack the Power of Juju?
For the console,
the show
you
was
have
stupid.
SpongeBob, of course,
the game was
Patrick,
pretty okay.
Timmy,
I remember the
Jimmy,
game being pretty
Sam,
good.
and adding in Tak from Tak and the Power of Juju, Gur from Invader Zim, Stimpy from Ren and Stimpy, Jenny XJ9 from My Life as a Teenage Robot, and Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life. The handheld version would exclusively have Zim from Invader Zim, El Tigre from El Tigre, and Mr. Blick from Cat Scratch. This was starting to feel a lot more like a Nicktoons game. Sure, SpongeBob is front and center, but that's okay. Look at all these cool characters now in the game. Here, the story is evil toys at the hands of Professor
thing. I said this in my
both my Nickelodeon and my his evil mustache.
Cartoon Network tier list.
Our final game from the franchise would be Nicktoons Globs of Doom.
A lot of people.
Wait a second.
A lot of people
it's actually
didn't get a lot of
SpongeBob
shows
SquarePants featuring Nicktoons.
They were on
Globs
Nicktoons,
of Doom.
not on Nickelodeon,
SpongeBob is
and they
the
didn't
gold
have
standard
Nicktoons.
Funny though, being in the United States, the games up until this point have always been Nicktoons, but outside of the US, the games were known as SpongeBob SquarePants and Friends, and then whatever subtitle would come after that. So after 3 previous games here, they decided to unify the branding a bit and still give focus to the other Nicktoons, but really, this is a SpongeBob game series at this point. Comparatively, the game has a way smaller cast of characters to play as. The last game gave us so many cool options, and here, it's restricted back down a bit. Some new and some old. We have SpongeBob and Plankton from SpongeBob, Zim and Dib from Invader Zim, Jimmy and Beautiful Gorgeous from Jimmy Neutron, Danny and Nikolai Technus from Danny Phantom, and finally Tak and Trolloc from Tak and the Power of Juju. It's just a surprising list at the end of the day compared to the game right before it. Here we have heroes and villains that form separate syndicates to fight back against these glob creatures and rescue friends within their different worlds. There's twists, turns, and the normal stuff that happens when you trust villainous characters for too long. Suffice to say, there was a lot of Nicktoons related games in a short period of time that featured all these characters. Aside from the console versions, we did have the handheld versions offering a different way to play through the games, which was pretty cool to see. Nothing really beats those nostalgic feelings of moments like this from your past. All of these Nicktoons...
To be fair, the PlayStation 2 came out in what, 2000? And it was supported up until like 2015. Like, holy shit.
Hanging out in one game franchise was really cool to see. Sure, there were other small games, one-off scenario games, and party games that featured multiple Nickelodeon characters all being in one game, but when it came to Unite and the rest of the games that followed, it really did feel like they were trying to build something here. I would have loved for these crossover games to lead to TV specials featuring some really fun crossovers, but as far as scratching that itch for what it would be like, yeah, the game series does the trick. While overall the series has had its high moments and for sure its low moments, it never fell too far in the negative direction gameplay-wise that made it not enjoyable. It's madly replayable and worth a revisit for the nostalgia of it all. The best way I can put it is the games are simple, but they're fun. Maybe we make a part 2 to this video going over the...
Yeah, they were okay. They were okay. Like, I don't know. I miss the old way games used to be, where we went from games like that, which were kind of, they were kind of static, and you just followed along the game, and then you went into like games like Gmod. Like, that transition was such like a good transition.